We're looking at another stretch of town where there were a number of activities going on that we want to talk about. This is Otterman Street, looking up the hill, looking west, and we're down about where the street called St. Clair crosses. And now we're going to go back in time a bit. This is another one of my attempts to show what the town looked like once upon a time. And when we remember that in 1830, the population of Greensburg was only about 800 people, it becomes obvious that you didn't have that dense of a population. As a matter of fact, George Dallas Albert, in his History of Westmoreland, describes this building here, which was once a brewery, as the eastern end of the old town. This building, the North brothers ran a brewery. Then after that, the Rue family got it and had a carriage factory there. Right above their lot was a blacksmith. Way up the hill here, there was a chair factory. Down here at number 2, newspapers were made. Frederick Wise, the son of the town's first clockmaker, ran the descendant of the Farmer's Register at this corner of Maple Avenue and Westmoreland. About 1832, the Court brothers got a hold of this lot here and developed it as a tannery, which was a good place for a tannery because the public spring was right up the hill. Right up the hill by number 6, the schoolhouse. And number 5, you have a hat maker, John Kearns, another of the Kearns brothers, and then later Patrick McGuire was making saddles here. Number 4 was a tailor, Lorenz Winsheimer, who ran a rather extensive establishment here in the 40s into the 50s. He was one of the people first to hire women in his establishment. By 1850, there were 4 women working here, 7 people in all. This is from the chair factory up the hill between Maple Avenue and Main Street on the north side. This is a picture of a blacksmith to recall the fact that right above what was the brewery was once a blacksmith named John Smith. And Smith was a guy who had a specialty. Smith was a nailer. He made nails. And this was the way they made them. They just took a piece of metal and pounded the head down. And in 1826, we see a note in the Greensburg Gazette that was complaining that the town was without that most useful mechanic, a nailer, and had been for 4 years. And although we're used to hearing the term mechanic used as a person who fixes cars, back then the term mechanic was used to refer to anybody in the manual trades, just about. Again, we look at the hill. This is where the blacksmith would have been, right on this lot here. This is Maple Avenue. And then above Maple Avenue on the north side was the chair factory. And here, down here, was the tannery. And around the year 2000, I took part in the excavation of a tannery in Pittsburgh. And I photographed this there. This had been underground for more than 100 years when we dug it up and excavated there. These were the tanning vats. They had been made of wood, oak, and this was a wooden pipe that delivered water to the vats. These were holes which were used to drain the vats. This was one that still had the plug in it. And by the time I got there, I mean, the place was in horrible shape. It had been underground for a long time, and everything was, battered and smashed. But you could see how the old wooden vats, had been aligned to receive the water, and then you would put tree bark in there from oak sometimes to tan the leather, the animal hides, which would be processed. This was where that tannery was located, on the corner here of the alley that goes across Otterman Street right down below Maple Avenue. And diagonally across was the place where the North brothers ran a brewery, and then later Adam Rue had a carriage factory at this point. This is the kind of thing you might see in a carriage factory or any place, even a chair factory, where you had to make round parts. This guy over here is doing things on a lathe, and this is the great wheel, which has the apprentice as a motor, and he's making the lathe spin so that the other fellow could work the part. This is a shot in a carriage shop. This is the great wheel. A fellow here working, making a hub. This guy is putting spokes into a hub for a wheel. This guy is using the draw knife to make the what we call the felloes, the various parts of the outside, the wooden outside of the wheel. Now here, what you see is the metal tire being put on the wooden wheel. The metal tire was made just a little bit bigger than the wheel, and then it was heated up so that it would expand. And once it was expanded, it was put over that wooden wheel, pounded down on there. And you see the one boy pouring water on there. That would cool it off, and it would tighten up on the wheel. This is the inside of a coach factory. And this is where the wooden work was done. And in addition to this area, you'd almost always find a blacksmith that either worked for the coach factory or else was located nearby, because the undercarriage of a coach included what they would call the gears, the fastenings, the things where the suspension was fastened on, and the wheels, the way that the thing was steered. All that stuff needed metal appurtenances. And I think we've come to a time when we shut this down and say so long until next time.